Good morning and welcome to Missoula Real Estate Today. This is Denny Bedard. Missoula Real Estate Today is presented by Diane Beck of Windermere Real Estate. Diane's been working with buyers and sellers in the Missoula market for over 25 years. Along with her trusted partners, Diane provides complete service for your real estate transaction and brings us guests who provide useful information on industry-related topics and trends. And now, Missoula Real Estate Today on News Talk, KGVO. Oh, always glad to have you with us on Missoula Real Estate Today, and I love having good friends come in the show as guests, and a command performance. I commanded him to come back in because I wanted to. It'd been a little while, and I wanted to talk to him. Shane Klaus, who owns Pink Grizzly Greenhouse, which will be opening soon. Welcome back to the show.
Thanks for having me, Denny. It's good to see you again.
Oh, yeah, it's always terrific to have you in. You got so much great information to share, and I guess since you're not open right now, maybe just a real quick holiday review. You know, you got Montana Rees, you have all the Christmas trees fresh cut, and you always have a lot of things going on during the holidays. How did that go?
We had another remarkable season. We sold several thousand Christmas trees. Wow. And this is the first year that we actually sold out of Christmas wreaths, and we got caught a little bit in the supply shortage. So the actual metal rings that we make the wreaths on, I had ordered them over a year ago, and there was some 7,000 rings stuck at a port somewhere on the West Coast, and they came in promptly 3 days after Christmas. So
you got them for next year.
Yeah, fortunately, we do plan ahead. I do try to order things like 2 years in advance, so we did have enough to fulfill our season, but I think we could have made and sold more. Ultimately, though, very happy. You know, it's nice to be able to be successful in a local business, and that's all because your listeners show up and buy things from our little eclectic business. So.
Right. Pink Grizzly Greenhouse, Shane Klaus, the owner. Shane, as a lot of you know, is an outstanding performer and entertainer as well, and he's got some pretty exciting things going on. We'll save room at the end of the show to get to that. I don't know that I've ever had you on when your store is not open, but what do you anticipate? It's coming soon. What do you anticipate your customers they are just so anxious and eager to buy once you get started again? You know,
I do get calls every day. You know, now that we have the marvel of what Google is, people can Google your business. So I've had to learn to show that our business is actually closed on Google, because if Google says it's open, you're open. So what we do get calls about right now is, you know, people get cabin fever, especially a day like today. We got a couple inches of snow, and people are really wanting to get out in their gardens or at least do something. So what we get calls about right now is seeds. You know, are you going to have seeds? Are you going to have things that we can use to start seeds? And the answer is yes. And then my advice is free. People send us information on Facebook or email or a phone call, and I always call back. I love to share the information that I've learned over a lifetime. And there are some things that you can do to get a little earlier start and save yourself some money for the gardening season.
Well, I got to believe that a farmer, a rancher, a greenhouse owner seems like a weather watcher kind of guy. Any thoughts on what kind of spring you are expecting this year?
Well, we're expecting the Farmer's Almanac, which I do buy and I read, and I check up on it. And I also have a weather app that I consult at least 30 or 40 times a day, even though I have absolutely no control over the weather. None of us do. And we all know that if you don't like the weather in Montana, just wait 20 minutes. But we do check up on it. We are expecting some pretty heavy snow through the middle of March, and then I think we're going to have a little bit drier than average summer. So that's not actually terrible for a gardening season as long as you have irrigation water that you can use. So sometimes when we get too much snow, and which is good for our aquifers, too much snow and too much rain makes it much more difficult to actually not just plant your garden, but plant your crops. It makes things harder for ranching and stuff. So if we can kind of get a bit more moderate spring, which is what we're expecting, it actually lends itself favorably to gardening.
What are typically Western Montana's earliest bloomers, the hardiest of the hardy that we'll be seeing soon?
You know, it's ironic you say that, because our joke at Pink Grizzly is we always love it when people call us a pansy, because that is the absolute toughest flower in the entire world. They'll grow through the snow. You can spray them with Roundup and they still grow. They're beautiful. So as far as
what makes them that way?
I think they have just evolved to be tougher, and they can live in many different kinds of environments. They can grow in gravel. They can grow in really great potting soil. They can grow in clay. They're just a pretty amazing plant. And since they're an annual, they'll bloom and they'll create seeds multiple times a year. And sometimes they're the gift that gives a little too much. You all of a sudden have pansies and violas growing around your yard where you don't want them. So as far as flowers go, we do sell a tremendous amount, tens of thousands of pansies and petunias, because those plants, they're beautiful. You can get just about any color you want. They're easy to grow, and they can handle our weather. And they like cool weather, But as far as maybe things that you would eat, some of the early tougher things, spinach and lettuce, they're really easy to grow. You can put some soil in your kitchen and sprinkle some seeds out, and in about 10 days, you'll have enough greens there to make your own salad. So, and they like cold weather. They really prefer weather that's like right around 28 degrees. They don't mind to get frozen a little bit, and then it'll warm up to 50 degrees during the day. That's the weather they like. And boy, do we have a lot of weather in Montana that's under 50 degrees. So
Sure.
those things are pretty good and make you feel like a good gardener.
Missoula Real Estate Today, presented by Diane Beck of Windermere Real Estate on Newstalk KGVO. My guest this week, Shane Klaus, owner of Pink Grizzly Greenhouse, opening soon for the season. Is it a common mistake, Shane, for some customers to, everybody gets anxious, little spring fever, jump the gun and plant things just too early?
It is. It's pretty common, and I'll even do it myself. Boy, I work in a greenhouse. It's a job that I love. So sometimes this time of year and it's snowy, I'll go plant a few things that maybe it's just too early. Now I do have about 30,000 square feet of indoor space. So if I get a tomato that's too big, I can put it somewhere. One of the things that people do, they'll get grow lights and heated benches. And if you plant your tomatoes or something like a pumpkin or zucchini now, my goodness, they'll be taking over your house before we can put it outside, because we really can't put them outside until the end of May. So that is a pretty common problem. People will start things in their houses and then they realize, oh dear, I've got too much stuff. And what happens is those plants are grown in a perfect environment, 70 degrees, no wind, perfect soil, grow lights, and then you go to put them outside, and Mother Nature is pretty brutal, and it kills them because they've been too sheltered. So one of the things, if you are starting stuff, get just a regular little box fan or a little fan, and throw some wind on them. That makes them tougher. They have to resist the wind. And in these late February and March and April days, it's going to warm up above freezing. It's okay. Open a window and let them get some cold air on them. That will toughen them up so that when you are ready to put them outside, we call it hardening off.
Yeah.
You want them to get some of the natural elements. And it's even great if you have the ability to put them on a table or a cart, put them outside when it's above 40 degrees. And they'll get mad. They'll shrivel up because they'll be cold, just like we would if we didn't have a blanket on. And if we're at a Grizzly game and it's too cold, and we don't have a blanket, you feel cold. Well, they do the same thing. But if you toughen them up a little bit, then when it's time to put them outside, they won't die on you. And you've put all this effort in between January and planting season. So those are some easy things you can do to toughen them up.
Man, training camp.
That's right. Training camp for baby plants. That's right. And it's fun. The key to this is if you turn it into something fun, because they are living things. They're like they're tougher than little baby chicks or little kittens. I mean, they cannot take care of themselves. You got to be there every day. So if you put all that effort in, it's nice to see them be able to grow a real tomato for you sometime in the summer.
Man, that is great advice, and of course you share a lot of that. Other kinds of advice that you're given a lot of in the late winter and the early spring.
Well, it's gardening is one of the things like fishing. If you put a survey out there to see what people like to do, gardening is pretty high on the list of what people consider a fun pastime, and it brings a lot of joy. So if you can put joy into the work mixture, it makes the work a lot more fun.
Missoula Real Estate Today, presented by Diane Beck of Windermere Real Estate on Newstalk KGVO. My guest and good friend, Shane Klaus, owner of Pink Grizzly Greenhouse, opening soon here in Missoula for the season. And I know last year, I think the last time we got to talk a few months back, potatoes come to mind. But I know last year you outran some possible product shortages. That the case again this year? Are you expecting some similar challenges here and there?
It is true. When people started gardening more, there were some shortages of staple things like seed potatoes. And so since we have some friends, there's a lot of seed potato farmers in the state of Montana. So we were able to plan and not run out of those things because I had an inkling of it. One of the things that has been very difficult for an entire industry worldwide is the little pots, little plastic pots, or even clay pots that the plants go in, because a lot of that manufacturing is happening in China, and there's different reasons why those things can't get here. So one of the things that I started doing many years ago, before there were shortages, is I would order 2 years in advance for the things that we can't run out of. So I make sure that we have those things. And I'm really glad we did, because there is a distinct shortage of manufacturing of a lot of those things. So thankfully we planned for that. Plus, fertilizer, which is a very common thing that most people don't even think about every day, whether it's for your lawn or for your wheat crop or your hay or for the flowers that we grow, the price on that is more than double what it was at this time last year. So I'm very fortunate that 2 years ago I bought this enough. One of the things being isolated in Montana, it's forced me to be a planter because it's so expensive to ship just one pallet here from Indiana, where a lot of that stuff's made. So I make sure that we can get enough stuff on a truck to save us a little bit on shipping, and then we have to store it. So I've got all my fertilizer that I need for the year, and hopefully the prices will moderate a little bit by next year. But that's going to be a distinct challenge for a lot of people. You're going to notice when you go to whatever store you go to get fertilizer that it's considerably more expensive.
Let me jump down to that question I'd put down then, since you brought that up. Fruits, vegetables, plants, being in the industry, whatever you got growing, the value of quality soil, that is such a huge factor. And how does Pink Grizzly try to help customers improve all of that?
Well, I think I've said before, it's like building a house. If you have a really good foundation and your footings are square and everything's square, then it makes everything easier to build. You can put your walls up, and then the roof fits nicely, and then when you finish out the inside of your home, it's easier to build. If you start with good soil, and unfortunately in a lot of Western Montana, we don't have the luxury of starting with good soil. A lot of our soils have a lot of clay in them, and that's difficult for a lot of the plants we want to grow. And you can sure grow sagebrush in clay soil, but we don't eat sagebrush. So we want to grow tomatoes, and we want to grow apple trees, and we want to grow different crops that we want to eat. So one of the things that I call the Montana miracle is the presence of iron. It's a biostimulant or a micronutrient. It's not fertilizer. It's an element that is always available there. But if the pH of the soil is wrong, that iron isn't available to those plants. So we sell a product called Iron Tone. It has iron in it. And you put that in your soil with the plants, and what it does is it really encourages root growth. Underneath the soil, there's microbes that live in the soil, and they kind of dance with the roots of your plants, and they symbiotically work together. The microbes feed on the soil, and they break the nutrients down into a way that the roots can take it up into them and grow something. And then the roots themselves give something back to those microorganisms. So we're just now starting to understand what the living culture of soil is and how important it is, and what you need to do to enhance that.
And the product name Iron Tone?
Iron Tone. It's just anything with iron. There's another product that's called Iron Night. It looks like little green BBs, and you buy that in a bag. Yeah. And a lot of folks will put that on their lawn because that makes your lawn green, and it helps it resist our hot, dry summers. Iron is such a key to the growth of plants, and it's very key to the Krebs cycle. And now I'm going to get kind of a nerdy science, but it's very important to photosynthesis. So especially in our portion of Western Montana, where we have a lot of clay soils, iron is very important. Now, if you live on the west side of the Bitterroot Valley, there's a lot of iron in the water. So there's a good reason why there's a lot of apple orchards that were planted, in the late 1800s and early 1900s, because that water had a lot of iron, and those trees grow well because of the iron. So iron is a very distinct key to being a successful gardener in Western Montana.
Is it something that you need to apply liberally, or is it one of those things that a little will go a long ways?
That's an excellent question.
We as human beings don't think a little goes a long ways.
We market stuff. More. Buy more. Go to Costco and buy pallets and pallets of stuff. No, the beauty of iron is a little bit goes a long way.
Yeah,
I'll tell people, I'm like, you can buy this bag of soil from me. It's readily available, and this Iron Tone is excellent. It's easy, but if you could also grab some rusty nails out of your garage, dig a hole, throw them in the hole, and plant a tree on top of it, and that horseshoe or a railroad spike or some, not galvanized, because galvanization makes them not rust. We want things that will rust. So if you put something that will rust in a hole, you don't want to put that in your garden. Otherwise, you're going to pop every tire you have. But if you're planting a tree, the old timers used to put a railroad spike or a horseshoe or an old rusty nail in the hole with it, and that provides iron enough for the plant in perpetuity. So a little bit goes a long way. So a teaspoon of iron a year for a plant like an apple tree that's, say, 8 or 10 years old with a trunk that's 3 or 4 inches, that's enough iron for it for the whole year. A little bit of iron goes a long way.
Gosh.
And iron makes your miracle grower, your nitrogen, go further. So when you put iron with fertilizer in the soils that we have, it makes the nitrogen available to the plant.
I'm not sure if you're not at your best when you go nerd. You know?
I really enjoy the science of it. It's
I think that it carries the show. It really is.
Well, I appreciate that. My joke is, my minor is ag business, and I took soil science, and it's really boring stuff to most people, and I really wish I had paid more attention, because now I read up on all kinds of things about soil and how it works on a molecular level, because that really is the building blocks that makes things grow. And if you do some simple things that make that better, it makes everything else easy.
Yeah, that was interesting. I learned something today on Missoula Real Estate Today, which is brought to you by Diane Beck from Windermere Real Estate on News Talk KGVO. Comes your way every weekend. And we want to say thanks to some of Diane's marketing partners that help bring the show to you. Rob Fleming with Man Mortgage, Miles Link at Opportunity Bank of Montana, and Carol Blodgett with MakeItMissoula.com. My guest this week, Shane Klaus, owner of Pink Grizzly Greenhouse, opening soon. We'll get to all of that shortly. But the last couple of years, Shane, you've had the pleasure of meeting a lot of new grow your own customers. Is it rewarding to see them return? What is the best part of all of that? Well, with every customer, of course, you interact with all your customers so
absolutely.
well. But you have developed a new client base for a number of reasons over the past couple of years too.
Well, I'm a lifelong proponent of the agriculture industry. I just think that's really one of the things that really defines Montana. It's our leading industry, not only in our state, but Montana or the United States really feeds the world. So I just love agriculture, and one of my missions in life is to teach people how to grow their own food, and I get to do that every day. And one of my favorite things is, especially in the last couple of years, people, they were either stuck at home because they couldn't go to work, or for whatever reason, they really, you spend more time at home. More people started gardening, and I really love seeing, especially the young families with their kids. They all come in together. They learn how to plant some seeds. Especially when they're the flowers are really beautiful, but when they're growing the vegetable starts and the herbs and all the little things, and we can help them grow some of their own food and make it fun. That's really enjoyable for me. I never get tired of seeing people come by and they've got a smile on their face, and their kids are running around and playing with the dogs and running around through the trees. And I love it when the little kids, they'll pick a flower off, and the parents are always mortified. Oh, I'm so sorry. I said, no, let them do that. They'll grow back. It's we want it to be fun. We want to do our little bit to perpetuate a little joy, because there sure is a lot of stuff in our world and right now that's not fun. So we want to create some normalcy and some joy. And boy, you can see it every day. It's hard not to be happy when you're got snow on the ground. You walk in the greenhouse and there's some of these beautiful green plants growing. I can't stress enough that it really is, gardening really adds a lot of joy and some peace to your life, and it's fun to be a small part of that for folks.
Well, and I think it became as well, starting almost exactly 2 years ago now, with a lot of things being locked down, and you're going to be in your house a lot more, so you're looking for more activities, either as an individual or a family, and I think you saw that as some of the indoor gardening hobbyists started to really come out.
There's a lot more apartments being built, and we hear every day that there's a shortage of places to live. So a lot of the folks that are buying apartments, they do have a window that has some sun, or they might have a little tiny porch, and you'd be amazed at how much food you can grow in just a few 12 to 14-inch pots on your patio. And you could put a tomato and some basil and a cucumber and a pepper all in the same pot. And boy, come July, you wouldn't need to go to the produce section of your grocery store, because you're going to have enough food to make a meal for the next several weeks. In fact, the grocery stores in Missoula do notice that. My brother Daniel is a produce manager at Orange Street Food Farm, and in the month of September till about the 1st of October, they don't sell a lot of tomatoes. They don't sell as many peppers. They don't sell as much lettuce because there are a lot of people in our community that grow a little bit of their own food, and the grocery stores notice that.
Interesting.
Yeah. It's kind of fun.
Yeah, the harvest.
That's right.
Most important question, of course, how soon in the year can you make your block of Russell in Wyoming there one of the most gorgeous places on the entire drive with all the hanging baskets?
Yeah. I started doing that years ago.
It's amazing.
One of my frustrations, we love the Russell Street project. It's much safer and it moves. And since 2019, we've had construction going on every year. So, and one of the things that I wasn't able to finish, and it's still not finished, are the fences because I've had to build those fences twice now when we're doing construction. So one of the things I could do to try to make it a little bit prettier was put some flower baskets on the front of it. So those are a true labor of love for me. Boy, do we have to water those things. But at least when you drive by that little section of Russell Street between about May and about the 1st of November, they're really
you
pretty.
Want to see some stunning pink. What all do you put in there anyway?
Well, it's my favorite kind of petunia. It's called a purple wave petunia, and they'll grow about 6 feet long, and it's a real dark, almost purple, almost burgundy color. It's a fuchsia color. And then I put another plant in. It's actually a potato vine. It is actually a sweet potato, but our environment here isn't. You don't eat the sweet potatoes because they never mature. But the vine is lime green, so the contrast of that real dark burgundy flower and the lime green just is real eye catching. And I usually put a different color combination every year, but that one has been so popular that I think I've done it for 3 years in a row now, and it really. The other thing about that particular petunia is they're easy to grow, and they don't mind the hot weather. They can handle cold weather, and that's why they last until November.
Fruits or vegetables? Do you have customers coming in that are just bound and determined to grow something that you just kind of have to break the bad news and say, "Hey, sorry." It ain't happening in Western Montana. Now, hopefully that doesn't happen very often, but I'm sure that there are some ambitions that you have to
People do
curtail.
ask, people do ask, one of the things is peaches, and we'll sell a few kinds of peaches, but and you can grow them here, but then you really have to baby them. You got to wrap them up in the winter, and they're susceptible to certain diseases. Peaches is one of the things, and what, at the end of the summer, people are giving away apples and they got too much fruit, but I've never heard of one person that has a peach tree that had any trouble getting rid of their peaches because they're like gold. People really love those, but they are difficult to grow. Sweet potatoes, I mentioned that.
Yes.
People ask me all the time, well, don't you sell sweet potato starter plants? And I said, well, we use them as a decorative plant because even though you're going to get a sweet potato, it'll be the size of your thumb, not those giant sweet potatoes that you go buy at the store around Thanksgiving. We need humidity and we need more warmth at night than they're going to get here in Western Montana. Right. So there are a few things that we can grow this stuff, but and even okra. Okra's another one. It's kind of like a zucchini kind of like plant of the South. It's a warm weather crop. And you can grow them here, but they just don't grow very well. So, and watermelons, everybody loves, you grow your own watermelon, and it's just hard to get them, all of those things I mentioned, to ripen up in our climate. You're just about there, and all of a sudden we get a freeze, and it's really frustrating.
Missoula Real Estate Today, brought to you by Diane Beck of Windermere Real Estate on News Talk KGVO. My guest, Shane Klaus, owner of Pink Grizzly Greenhouse. Before we move on in the final 4 or 5 minutes here, we've been talking about when things are going to open up. Have you locked in an official opening day for Pink Grizzly?
Well, as long as Mother Nature cooperates with us. The last several years, we get winter the last week of February and the first week of March. So historically, we always try to open up by March 1st, which is a Tuesday this year. And if we don't get 30 or 40 inches of snow, which we have, we'll probably open, and then people can come and look around. But the official date is March 7th, and that's the day that we have found for our operation that we start planting tens of thousands of seeds and little baby plants, and then we'll start getting fruit trees in. And we already have a lot of stuff that's growing now that we keep over the winter.
Good.
I've got all different kinds of fruit trees and some shade trees, and then some shrubs, and even some raspberries and grapes and things like that we've wintered over, and they'll be ready to sell the first week of March. Of course, you'll come in and in your mind you're thinking, oh, I want to get an apple tree, and it's got to be this big beautiful thing with lots of leaves. Got to remember, they're not going to get leaves on them until about the second week of May. So they're just sleeping right now. They're resting so that they can be ready to go when it's time.
I'm sure a lot of people think you've been sleeping too, because the store has been closed. But and a lot of you do know that Shane Klaus is a phenomenal singer, songwriter, performer, entertainer, and now the star of a movie. I know this has been in the works for a while, but how exciting that it's so close. Tell us about Eye for Eye and when people can see it.
Well, the Eye for Eye movie, it's an independent Western film written and directed and produced by Larry Martin, who's lived in Rock Creek for 30 years now. And we actually became friends because he was also a poet, and he and I have written a couple of songs together. That's how we became friends. Good. And, of course, he asked me to be in his movie, and I said yes. And we are one of the things that took longer than I anticipated was the whole editing, all the, to make – there's blood in the movie. And so to make the blood look real and make the guns sound real and all this stuff, because it's an old shoot 'em up kind of Western show, it's ready to go. They just uploaded it just yesterday to one of the sites, and then that will be available on Amazon Prime probably somewhere in the middle of April. We're going to have the Arizona premiere. It will be in Prescott, Arizona, next Tuesday night at the Yavapai Community College. They've got about a 1,500-seat auditorium, which I'm told that we've sold over 75% full already. Ticket sales started for our Montana premiere, which is in Missoula at the Zach downtown, Zootown Arts Community Center.
Right.
And that's April 24th. And tickets are on sale now. We're doing the ticketing ourselves because the Zach isn't able to do that for us. So people just call Pink Grizzly for that. And like I said, tickets started on sale yesterday, and we already sold about a third of the tickets already. So that's pretty fun. So we're going to fill that room up, and we'll have a premiere. And I think what we probably will do if we fill it up and there's enough demand that people want to see it in a premiere and they don't want to wait to see it on Amazon Prime, well, I'll do the best I can to try to find another place where we can show it again. Yeah,
that'd be great. And of course, you are starring in the movie. You are one of the heroes, the retired sheriff out to avenge wrong, right?
That's right. Yeah. The character's name is Quint Reagan, and it's a very classic, quintessential Western story. So Quint Reagan is a sheriff and a rancher in a town. There's a wealthy land baron who wants to buy Quint Reagan's ranch. Quint won't sell, and so they go to try to rough him up a little bit. Well, he's not home, but his pregnant wife is, and they kill his wife, and she's pregnant. So Quint spends the rest of the show trying to find out who did it, and he has to be creative in finding out who did it, and then he finds all those, and it's an Old Testament, eye for eye, tooth for tooth. That's why the name of the movie is Eye for Eye. So they did him wrong, and he makes atonement. But there's even some sweet moments in the show and some funny stuff. My dog that's with me. If you came to Pink Grizzly, you'd see my little black cow dog with me all the time. She's in the movie. Her name's Froggy, is her name. And then all of my horses are mules, and mules are in the show, and they all did a great job. Nobody got bucked off. Nobody got hurt. I told you before, that was the most, of all the things in the movie, the most stressful thing for me was that I was putting people that knew nothing about horses on my own horses and mules, and boy, those horses and mules did great. It was pretty fun to be a part of.
They're going to command a much higher price the next time they're in a movie.
That's right. That's right. I think they're going to ask for a bonus, more feed for the day.
Shane Klaus, owner of Pink Grizzly Greenhouse on Missoula Real Estate today, man. It's so much fun to have you in, and give us once you do open up on that day in early March. How do we find Pink Grizzly?
Pink Grizzly's at 1400 Wyoming Street in the corner of Russell and Wyoming in Missoula, Montana, and you can find us on Google now, so you'll find us there, and just give us a call. We'll be happy to help you with anything you need. The advice is always free.
Great to see you as always, man.
All right, great to see you too, Denny. Thank you.
Thank you for listening to Missoula Real Estate Today, presented by Diane Beck of Windermere Real Estate. Email dianebeck@windermere.com, or for a complete directory of Diane's listings, visit movetomissoula.com. That's move, the number 2, Missoula.com. We'll see you next time on Missoula Real Estate Today.